podcast called Jellison Podcast.
First ever type 1 diabetic in UFC history.
Doing fine, Dub. Nice to be with you.
Get out!
He's like, yeah. My tunnel vision and my periphery, I'm like off field.
Hey, you know how it is, though. Hey, when your team.
I don't remember that. That's crazy.
What's up, everyone? We're back with another episode of the Jellison Podcast. Today, we have a very special guest, Mr. Evan Boudreaux. Evan, how you doing?
I'm good. Thanks for having me on.
Yes, sir. Thank you so much for coming on. So what have you been up to recently? I know we last saw you suit up for Purdue, not with the MACKEY, but during your college career a couple years ago. So what have you been up to since then?
Yeah, obviously I graduated right when COVID hit, so it's been pretty, up and down times. But yeah, staying in shape. Obviously, I got to play in the TBT last year, which was awesome. Spent a lot of time with my family, and looking forward to playing it again this year. So a lot of basketball still a huge part of my life. So yeah, it's been kept myself busy. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And I know that you're a board member with the Purdue Purdue Center for Cancer Research as well. But have you been still training and kind of looking at opportunities within basketball?
Yeah. I've stayed in shape. I've had conversations with agents. But I actually recently accepted a job to work downtown in Chicago, starting this fall. So I think I'm obviously super excited for that. But I don't know if the professional route's going to be my calling.
Mm-hmm. And what's that job, if you don't mind me asking?
So I'm going to be working at Deloitte in downtown Chicago.
Nice. That's super cool. So kind of going to the Purdue Center for Cancer Research, are you still a board member with them right now?
Yep, I still am. Yep.
Mm-hmm. Okay. So what types of projects and things of that nature do you guys do?
Yeah. So, I should start by saying that for me personally, right, obviously cancer hits home for me. I mean, my dad's been through a lot, so it's made the mission of the Cancer Center very personal. But the Cancer Center does some amazing work. I mean, they've got some of the leading scientists in the field conducting some really high level research out there, and their mission is to cure cancer. And I think that they do such outstanding work. I think the biggest thing that where I can help is trying to raise awareness for that, right? So that's why they brought in myself, and then we've now got a great student board, student members within the board, and so what's great about that is, for whatever reason, not a lot of people know about the Cancer Center when they're on campus. So when they're going through Purdue, it's not necessarily advertised a ton. So for us, we wanted to really be spreading awareness, making sure that people know what the Cancer Center does, the great work and the great scientists that actually are there. And so far, it's been great. It's been really fulfilling for me. Obviously, we put on things like the hammerdown cancer game. We also do like a 5K every year, and those kind of help, just make people aware of what we do. So yeah, I've been super lucky to be able to be a part of it, and hopefully I can stay being a part of it moving forward.
Mm-hmm. And how much does it mean to you to have that opportunity, to have this platform to help people with cancer and work with the Purdue Center for Cancer Research as well?
Yeah, it means a lot. I mean, it's real for me, and so being able to not only do it for my family and everything, but obviously Purdue is really identified with Tyler Trent's message and Tyler Trent's story, and that's been a big part of Purdue for a long time now. So anytime we can raise awareness and help fundraise and get money into the hands of people who are doing some incredible research, there aren't too many causes that are better. So definitely been awesome to be a part of it.
Mm-hmm. Well, from a fan's perspective, I think I speak for everyone. We really appreciate what you and you guys are doing as a whole. It's really special to come into a community like Purdue and work to make an impact. But after your transfer coming on to campus at Purdue. How did they embrace you? And it seems like you really enjoy the community.
Yeah, obviously I came from a place where it was a much smaller campus, and we didn't necessarily have the level of support that Purdue has. And what I was most surprised by was, the guys on the team, instantly made me feel like I was a part of the Purdue community. They made me feel like I was at home right away. Going out of their way to make me feel included and part of the team and everything, which was awesome because it's hard to change schools and come in as the new guy, and especially when you're not a freshman, right? So you don't have time really to form those relationships over 4 years. You got to do it quickly. So that was great. And then, the Purdue community was awesome too. I mean, there was so much support and so much love that came from the Purdue community, for myself, for the team. It blew me away every time I would walk into MACKEY and there were 15,000 people there. Even my first summer there, we had our alumni game, right? And there were like 5,000 or 6,000 people there for the alumni game. I mean, who does that? Like, it's crazy. It's so cool. It's so special to be a part of that. Hopefully I can play in that next year. I got the invite, so, stay tuned. But yeah, I mean, there aren't too many fan bases and communities like Purdue's. That's for sure.
Was it overwhelming, like when you're stepping on campus, just transitioning from an Ivy League school to the Big Ten, like the school itself, basketball, or anything in between?
Yeah, I think first of all, when you're going the basketball part, right? I went from being 4-5 at Dartmouth, and then I graduated on a Sunday and I had practice on Monday at Purdue. And so that was quite a turnaround for me. And then to step into practice with 7'3" and 6'10" and 6'11" and all that was definitely not something you see a lot in the Ivy League. So it was fun. It was nice to have those kind of guys on my team. But it was definitely a little bit of an adjustment. I mean, I went from not playing for, competitively for about 6 or 7 months, right into, Big Ten basketball. And so it took some time to kind of get my legs under me. But like I said, the guys on the team and everyone made it a much easier process than they even had to. I mean, there was nothing, they didn't have to embrace me as one of their own right away. And they did. And it was one of the reasons I still love Purdue, and I love the people, and I love being able to come back and still have relationships with everyone there.
Mm-hmm. And one thing that really intrigues me is, I mean, I envy all student athletes trying to balance being at the top of your game and handling yourself at school. Well, I mean, you went to Dartmouth, and then, I mean, I guess it's technically a step down. Come to Purdue, which is still probably the top academic school in the Big Ten. So how hard or easy was that for you?
Yeah, I mean, like, first of all, like, Purdue's no joke, right? So it's not like it was a step down. If I was lucky where I was able to graduate, obviously, so I got to pursue graduate program while I was at Purdue. And for me, it was nice because I got to kind of pick and be a little bit more selective with how I wanted to set up my schedule. And so that part of it was nice. But I think what's underrated is the amount of support that Purdue gives you as an athlete. Whether that's being study halls or, tutors or, academic progress checks to make sure you're on the right path, right? I mean, they've set up a really great infrastructure for you that it's almost difficult to not do well as an athlete, just because there's so many checks in place for you. So I think they've done a great job with that. I think it's one of the things, especially, I mean, I can only speak from my experience. I know the basketball team definitely takes it very seriously in terms of like going to class and like doing the right things and being on time and stuff like that. So that was stuff I had always been used to, but it was nice to see it ingrained in the culture when I got there.
Yeah, most definitely. So I wanted to kind of go back to your time at Dartmouth. How do you kind of reflect on that time, and then what all went into the decision to transfer?
Yeah, I mean, looking back on it, I definitely feel like I grew a lot as a person. And I think, especially you got your first 2 years in college, right? So much goes on just from a personal level, right? You learn so much, you go through so much. I think for me, one of the reasons I wanted to go there was I wanted to be able to bring them back to their first NCAA tournament since 1958, right? And so my mom had been there, my brother went there, they both played sports there. I knew how special the community was and how tightly knit everyone was around there. I knew how important that would be and how cool that would be to accomplish that. Whether that was my naive high school self, being a little overconfident might have been the case, but I still thought that it was really cool to be able to strive for that and be the first class to do that, right? So obviously it didn't work out. But that being said, I still, I don't look back on it with any negative memories, that's for sure. I enjoyed the social experience of it. I enjoyed, I still have friends who am really close with from Dartmouth. And then the basketball part, while it didn't work out the way I wanted it to, I had two successful years personally, and it set me up to be able to go to a place like Purdue. So it's not something where I regret it. It's just, it's unfortunate I wasn't able to go 4 years and finish it out there. But sometimes it's just you got to do what's best for you and in your career. So, like I said, no hard feelings from me. But it was a tough decision, and I'm glad that everything worked out the way it did. I think, I'm grateful for my time at Purdue. I think if I had to do it all over again, I would. So, it's just one of those things where it's tough in the moment, but over time you start to look back and it was for the best. So
Talk about that recruiting process, because I know it was a little hectic there for a second.
Yeah. So that was interesting. So when I decided, it was on like a Friday, right? And I got just slammed. Like my phone just was nonstop. And it's fun, right? So you go through the recruiting the first time, it's fun because you got all these people telling you they want you. Going through it the second time is even a little bit more fun because now you've established yourself as a college player who has been successful. So now, it's like all the really big schools calling you in all the time. So that's fun. The third time is not fun. But the third time when you have to go through it is not as much fun at all. So I was committed to Xavier, and it was really close between them and Purdue. I loved both places, and I had a great visit to Xavier, and I just felt like at the time it was a good fit. But obviously Coach Mack left for Louisville, and it's funny because he left, and I was actually with some of my buddies in Las Vegas at the time, and I remember just sitting in my hotel room, just being like, I don't want to go through this again. Like, I don't want to go through recruiting for a third time. And I got back to school, and I think it was like 3 or 4 days later. I was just sitting in class, and I remember, like, to this day, I was sitting in class, and I was like, I don't know why I'm waiting. Like, I don't want to go through this again. I know where I want to be. I know I want to go to Purdue. Like, it's really walked out of class. I think it was a Thursday, like afternoon at like 1:00. And I just called Coach Gary, and I was like, I'm coming. Like, I'm not going through this again. So it was nice to have it over with, but it was definitely hectic. Yeah.
I mean, it definitely sounds like it.
Yeah.
What was Coach Paint like, coming, like you mentioned earlier, coming in as an experienced player but new to the program?
Yeah, it is different when you're coming in as a grad transfer because you're coming in to fill, a hole, right? So when you're a freshman, you've got a little bit of time to like get acclimated, and you've got time to learn the system, get the weight program, and then, not necessarily ease your way in, but you've got time to figure it out. When you're coming in as a grad transfer, you need to be ready to go from day one. And I came in as a junior eligibility wise, and I had to kind of fill a couple different holes that we had, and so I wound up playing center for the first my first year, which my body did not like. I think I was in the ice bath like every day. A lot of sore nights, but ultimately it's one of those things where when you come in and you're expected to do something and that's what they think their best fit is, then that's what you do. And like I said, as a grad transfer, you don't have a lot of time. So it's kind of either you do it or you're not playing, right? So, Coach Paint was never, he never lied to me. He never told me something that wasn't going to happen. He just said, look, this is what we need. This is what we need. And while it's might not be up to your expectations right now, like, you got to stay with it. And I always appreciated that he didn't try to coddle me and make me think there was something going on that wasn't going on. It was just what was best for the team. And while it might have taken me a little bit to kind of get that through to me, I look back and I think, while I went through some adversity, I think he was always really honest and really forthcoming, and ultimately had the best interests for me and the team in mind. So, I think, again, looking back at my Purdue experience, I grew a lot as a person, and I really enjoyed it. So
that's what I was actually going to ask next. There's points where you weren't playing a whole lot, and I know, just the competitive nature in anybody, that's really frustrating. So, what did you do to kind of stay the course and realize, hey, this is deeper, I just got to wait and then I'll get another opportunity?
Yeah, I think it was hard. It was really hard my first year. And, I don't want this to come off wrong, because we were really successful my first year, right? So obviously we won the Big Ten, we went to the Elite Eight. But I had, I'd come there and I'd wanted to be a forward, and then, a couple things happened and I wound up playing center, and then, I was the sixth man, whatever, played like 20 minutes a game. And then I got, I think I started like 4 games, and then I tore my groin. Very, very painful, not a fun injury if you're going to do something to your body. So that kind of put a damper on things, because I tried to come back a little earlier than I probably should have, and it didn't help me, right? And so as soon as I went out, we had Travion step in and play really well, right? So he stepped in and he started getting really, really good minutes, and then you've got Matt, who's a 7-3 center, and then obviously Grady was playing super well at the 4, and so was Aaron. So, I'm hurt and I'm looking at this and I'm not an idiot. I can see the game, and we started to play really well. Not that we hadn't that year, but we, kind of started to like hit our stride a little bit. And so it was frustrating on a personal level not to be able to help the team and like contribute to all that success. I think there were games where I got a couple minutes here and there, but when you're watching it, it's tough, because you don't necessarily feel as big of a part as you'd like to feel, right? That being said, unbelievable experience to be able to like win the Big Ten and go to all those places and win, right? Unbelievable. Go to the Elite Eight. It should have been in the Final Four, but that's another time. Super fun. And then my second year, I had to kind of put my head down and say, if you give it your best shot and it doesn't work out and you don't play, at least you gave it your best shot, right? And I wound up obviously having a little bit more success and playing a little bit more forward. And so, personally, it was fulfilling for me, because I felt like I kind of climbed back a little bit and kind of proved that, I could play forward in the Big Ten. And that was what I had always kind of wanted to do. But, it was definitely tough. I'd be lying if they said there weren't some really, hard nights, and there weren't some tears shed and stuff like that. But, it comes down to, what are you going to do that's going to help the team win, even if it's not you personally doing well? So I kind of had to get over that, hump mentally. But once I did, it made a lot of sense to me, and the ego kind of went out of the picture. I definitely learned a lot. I feel like I grew a ton, especially that first year.
Yeah, I think that's really important for a lot of kids coming into college basketball to hear, just because, not everyone's going to be a Carson Edwards or Ryan Klein, who's the 1-2 option on your team. You have to find your role. And I think Coach Painter does a really good job of having players buy into those roles. I'm sure you could speak to that a lot better than I could. But you also mentioned kind of going up against the centers of the Big Ten. I can only imagine going up against Matt Harms and Travion Williams in practice. What was it like to face some of the other big guys within the Big Ten?
Yeah, it was cool, right? I mean, the first thing is like it's cool to say, I had to guard like Bruno Fernandez and like Nick Ward, Xavier Tillman, Luka Garza, all those guys, right? It's cool. It's definitely cool. It's nicer to say that you beat them all, and that you were successful against them. But yeah, I mean, the Big Ten's no joke, right? Especially if you're 6'7", 6'8", 220 pounds. It's definitely no joke. So, it, one of the things about the Big Ten is you're always going to have really good centers, right? So no matter who you are in the Big Ten, almost to a T, you're going to have some really big dudes. It's hard to win the Big Ten unless you've got that kind of front court like muscle. And so, yeah, super fun to play them. My body didn't love it all the time, but it was definitely fun.
I mean, at least, you missed Zach Edey by a year, Harm's length, and then Zach Edey came in. What is he, 7'6", and they said that he might grow an inch or two, and then however big he is, 300-some pounds.
Yeah, it's crazy. I mean, Zach was on his official with Matt and I, and he's the nicest kid too, which we loved him and everything. But he is massive, just absolutely massive. Yeah, but I'm looking forward to it. I think he's gonna be really, really good.
I mean, he's only been playing for what I think it was 3 or 4 years now, and he's already putting up those types of numbers. I mean, the sky's the limit for him. But I wanted to go to that Elite Eight run that you mentioned and all the success that you guys had. What was it like to be on such a successful roster?
Yeah, it's super cool because that year we didn't start out super hot, and then we got kind of rolling and down on the streak, and it's cool to kind of get that media attention and that national spotlight to come back to you. I mean, it definitely gives you a sense of like pride and confidence going forward, and it's one of the most special things when you're in those those NCAA hotels, and you're walking in and you're seeing all the teams with you, and then all of a sudden you're the last team in that hotel, right? Which is always kind of cool. But I leaving Dartmouth, it was one of the things that I had wanted to experience the most. I wanted to experience what the NCAA tournament was like, because you've only got 4 years to play college basketball. It's a shame if you don't get a chance to at least go one time, right? And that was one of the biggest criteria when I left. Was I was like, I want to go to a place that consistently makes the NCAA tournament and wins in the NCAA tournament. And obviously I went to a great place for that. But to be able to be a part of a team where you go and you beat the socks off of the former national champion, and then you go into a Sweet 16 game in Kentucky against Tennessee, where I mean, I walked out 50 minutes before the game, and this is when I wasn't really playing, and almost, I want to say like 60-70% of the seats were filled an hour before the game. And every Purdue player who walked out got like a giant standing ovation. I mean, it was like one of the most surreal moments in my life, was like walking out and seeing that. Just super cool. Just memories that like I'll never forget, and stuff that I'm super glad I got to experience.
And I mean, we're not going to talk about it, but we know how that run ended. But do you have or actually going to the next year? My apologies. What do you think kind of went wrong with the team in terms of just the ups and downs in terms of results?
Yeah, I think anytime you're going to lose a guy like Carson, you're going to lose a guy like Klein, there's going to be big holes in the roster, right? And so I think what you saw a lot was you saw guys trying to fill these new roles that they hadn't filled before in college. And I really just think you saw growing pains of young players. I think you saw a lot of inconsistencies of guys trying to take that next step to become, one of the leading guys. And it's not to single out any one player, because it was pretty much all of us just trying to you know, a lot of the guys who came back on that team my last year had played smaller roles on the Elite Eight team. I mean, significant ones, but not, you know, leading roles.
Yeah.
And so they were, you know, everyone was kind of trying to step into that leading role. And so I just think, you know, that was where we kind of fell short, was reaching a level of consistency from, you know, 1 through 9 on the roster. I mean, we had really great moments, right, where we beat, you know, the heck out of some of the best teams in the Big Ten. And then we had some moments where we lost to some teams we shouldn't have lost to. And I think that's just what you see sometimes when you've got, you know, uncertainties with roles and guys who, you know, great intentions, work really hard, but just need to find that level of comfort in that role. I think once you've got that and you've got that comfort, you see what happened, you know, last year. Obviously they had a much better year because you had guys who had been through it and who were comfortable with much larger roles. So, you know, it didn't work out the way we wanted. I'll go to my grave thinking we would have won the Big Ten tournament and gone to the NCAA tournament, and no one can tell me any different. But yeah, it was a tough year, but it was still, you know, still a lot of fun.
Mm-hmm. And how tough was it to learn that, like you said, your college career was going to be ending due to some pandemic that we really didn't even know what it was going to be?
Yeah, so I was in my hotel room with Matt the night before, and we were watching the Jazz. Obviously, everything that happened with Rudy Gobert, and so we saw that he tested positive, and we kind of looked at each other like this is not good. You know, we were kind of under the impression that there was a good chance that we were pretty sure we were going to play at the very least. We were pretty convinced that there might not be fans, but that we were going to play because there had been a Big Ten tournament game. I think it was Nebraska and someone else had played the night before. So we figured we'd play. You know, we were at like the Robert Ursay YMCA and in downtown Indy going through like our pregame walkthrough for Ohio State at like, I don't know, maybe like 11 in the morning. And we finished, and, you know, he just kind of pulled us in and said they canceled it. And so it was kind of wasn't a spectacular way to go out as a senior. You know, you always kind of want to go out swinging and playing in a game. So that part I think was the toughest. You know, I think we were probably done by like 12, and I was home on my couch by like 1:15, and we were supposed to play at 6. I mean, it was surreal. The whole day was surreal, and then obviously everything kind of went to lockdown like right after that. So definitely a tough way to do it, but at the end of the day, you know, obviously we've seen what's happened since, right? And it's hard to argue with what they did at the time. So you know, wish it would have ended differently, but it's not much you can do.
Yeah, I agree 100%. It was really cool though to see you kind of taking that step down the stretch that year. I mean, you had, I don't even know how many double doubles, but you were on a tear, especially in the hammerdown cancer game against Wisconsin. So I wanted to ask what that experience was like. Just how special was it? And
Yeah, no, it was super. It was really special to me. I had always thought that, you know, that was who I was as a player, and that was definitely well within my like capabilities. And so it was a little bit frustrating for me because, you know, the whole time I was at Purdue, I felt like that's what I should have been doing. And so to have it come kind of full circle from the injuries and from the, you know, different adversities that hit me, to have it come full circle, to play well, especially in the second half of my senior year, was really rewarding for me. You know, like I said, I learned a lot. It was really special because my parents were able to be there for all those games, and obviously they'd been there and seen like the lows, and so to reach those heights again was really nice for me, and it was a nice way to kind of finish out my college career where I felt like it ended on the right note. So yeah, I am definitely really happy with the way it ended.
And this was actually the first game I got to cover as a part of Hammer and Rails. And sorry, my dog's barking. So this was the first game I got to cover for Hammer and Rails. And I remember after the game, I was just kind of soaking it all in. And you were there. I don't know if you remember this. You were there for 25 minutes signing autographs for these kids. Do you remember that?
Yeah. I was
like, I was like, this guy just had, I mean, one of the most special games of his life, just with, I mean, the game itself, what it meant to him, and he's out here doing this. Like it really just spoke to me, the type of person that you are.
Yeah, it's super cool, and it comes back to like how awesome the Purdue fan base is, right? I hadn't started a game in like I don't know, maybe like a year, and all the little kids and everything, all the parents were still they had pictures of me and like on programs and stuff, and they were like all so excited, and that was awesome. It's great when you get to play and then you get to play well, and then the fan base starts to rally, a little bit behind you. That was really special for me. And then, I had some buddies in town and some family, and they got to see it, and they were super happy. So it was awesome. That night especially is something I'll definitely cherish forever.
Mm-hmm. And I mean, it might be the answer to this question might be that game. What is the most memorable game or stretch or moment from your entire career, Purdue and Dartmouth?
That's a good question. I think, well, one of them for sure is my when we played Virginia Tech my junior year. There's a couple. I mean, Virginia Tech's one just because I remember sitting at the end of the, I was the sixth man, right? So I didn't come in until about 14, 15 minutes. And I remember sitting on the bench, and it was our first game against a power conference opponent. And it was my first game at Purdue against a power conference opponent. And I remember just sitting on the bench, and my heart was beating so fast. And I was like, oh my God, okay, it's happening. And then obviously I went in and I played super well, and it was, we lost, but it kind of was my first moment where I was like, all right, like I can do this here. And, everyone knows I can do this here. That was definitely one. They had the team that won the Big East that year. Maybe it was the Big East tournament. They won one of them. And it was my very first college game, kind of the same thing where I started, but I was like, oh my God, like this is happening kind of thing. And, I wound up playing one of my best college games there. And I remember just thinking like, all right, I can do this. So that was really special to me, because when it's one of your firsts in college, it gives you like the confidence to go forward and keep building on that. And I think it's important to get those early, because without those, it's kind of like you're almost not second guessing, but you don't have that level of confidence you need to be successful. So for me to get those in early in my career, I think was really important for me mentally.
Mm-hmm. So one thing I wanted to ask, I want to make sure I don't forget. I know we're running here short on time. So I had Sasha Stefanovic on. It was when he got COVID, and he told me that he yammed on you in practice one time, and I wanted to see if there was any truth in that story. He said to ask you.
Sasha dunked, and I think it's the only time Sasha has ever dunked at a Purdue practice to this day. It was like our first week of summer workouts, and I'm like, I'm like a help defender, and like let's be very clear here. There was no contact. There was no like, I didn't foul him. It was like he jumped and I like went up straight, and he kind of went around me, and it was one of those like rim grazers where you kind of put it. So yes, I'll give it to him. He did it. I'm not going to argue it. I don't think I've seen him dunk since. So, it is what it is. I'm not gonna be mad about it.
Fair enough. Sorry, I had to bring that up.
But I'm not surprised he told you to bring that up either. I'm not surprised at all.
I actually saw he dunked in like the postseason workouts or something a couple months ago. But before we get going, I just want to talk to you about obviously joining the men MACKEY in next month's 2021 TBT. What was the process like of joining them last year? And then was it really even a hard decision to join them for a second year?
Yeah, it was kind of funny because I was sitting in Indianapolis, and it was maybe a couple weeks after the season got canceled. So I was at my parents' place there, and I was, I don't know, I was like scrolling my phone or whatever, and I got a DM from the men of MACKEY. And I had watched the tournament for a couple years. I always thought it was really cool. But I never really, since I was in school, I obviously couldn't play. And I actually, to be honest with you, when I first got the DM, I kind of thought it was like a joke. Like I didn't think it was like a real thing. but I responded and I was like, yeah, I'd be super interested on the off chance it was. And it turns out that Ryan, our GM, was just in the beginning stages of seeing who might be interested. So really glad I responded to that, because if I hadn't, obviously I wouldn't be playing. But it was really cool experience, being able to play with former, guys that I had played pickup and played open gym with and lifted and worked out with at Purdue. And then having guys come back who had played there, a little bit before I got there. It was super fun last year. And then when he said, we got a roster spot for you this year, it was not a thought in my mind. I mean, it was the easiest yes I've ever had. So super excited to be able to run it back and hopefully go a little deeper this year.
What do you think it's going to be like to play with guys, Purdue legends like Robbie Hummel, Lou Jack, and AJ Hammonds that weren't on the team last year?
I think it'll be really cool. I think, I know those guys. I mean, obviously Rob's been around a ton, whether it's broadcasting or I've even played pickup with him. And he's obviously great. And he's obviously been, really successful as a player post Purdue. So having him, I'm excited to be able to play with Lou Jack. Like I said, been able to play in open gyms with him, and he's awesome. He's a super nice guy, and really excited because he's super talented. So to have that kind of floor general point guard, I think is vastly underrated, especially in a tournament like this. And then obviously AJ's, was one of the best players in the Big Ten when he was there. And it always helps to have 2 7-footers when you're trying to play people. So glad that they're on my team. I'll put it that way.
Mm-hmm. And then just last thing I have for you. How do you feel like you guys match up with the rest of the field? And what do you think of the team that you guys have put together so far?
I think we put together a really balanced team. I think you look at us from top to bottom, and we've got 2 7-footers who played at a really high level, and that's hard enough. And then you've got guys like Frank Gaines, who's led Italy in scoring, and you've got Rob, who's played competitively up in in USA basketball even this year, right? And you've got Lou Jack, who is the all-time winningest point guard in Purdue history. You've got you got myself, obviously. No, but it's great because I think we've got a really deep roster, and I think we've got a roster that plays really well together, and guys who aren't going to be selfish or try to hijack anything. I think it's going to be you're going to see classic Purdue basketball. You're going to see guys who share the ball, who play really good defense, and who are going to just get after it. So I think it's going to be a lot of fun. Hopefully we got a lot of Boiler fans coming out to Columbus to watch us. I think it'd be great to be able to play. Hopefully we'll win our first game, and then I think it'd be great to play the Ohio State team in the second round there. I think that'd be a lot of fun, really cool environment. So yeah, we're looking forward to it. Should be a great time.
Yeah, I can't wait. I'll be there for the first game. And I'm cooking something up with Ryan K too. Shout out to him.
Yeah, shout out Ryan, mastermind behind it all.
But I'm gonna have to let you go. Thank you so much for coming on. I can't wait to watch you, you and the rest of the guys play in the TBT. Take home that $1 million.
Yeah, thank you. Appreciate you having me on.
Yes, sir. Stay safe.